Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're watching this. Stephen D. here again. First of all, I'd like to just make a quick note. My personal health issues I'm still, working on trying to get those better. I'm still having some issues with my chronic autoimmune disorder, but the testing and procedures that were done indicated that the worst case scenario that I was potentially warned might be in play. Is not. So that's a relief. Now on to what I want to talk about today. Squirrel. Oh, you didn't see it? Yeah, that's how I view our news media this election season. They're obsessed with polls. They're obsessed with the horse race. They're obsessed with what Trump says, when Hillary collapses. And meanwhile, some of the most important stories, news stories, actual news stories, important news stories, things that you'd think people would want to know about, are going largely unreported, or at least they're not being promoted very much in the mainstream media, particularly on TV news. And for example, the Dakota Access Pipeline protests. Amy Goodman of Democracy Now! Did a great video that went viral about what was happening there, and yet, women and children being attacked by dogs, just as children in Birmingham had been attacked by dogs in the 60s during the civil rights protests. The use of mace and pepper spray again against civilians, and yet my question isn't really, okay, this is certainly terrible. But why was Amy Goodman the only, practically the only reporter there covering this? Where were MSNBC, Fox News, CNN, CBS? Since the video came out, they all replayed it, put their own spin on it, but why don't they have reporters there? Because they don't want to cover that. Simple enough. What about that big spill? I'm sure you've heard of this. Pipeline spill. Millions of gallons of gasoline that just got dumped, into the groundwater in Alabama and Mississippi. How many people know about that? Is cable news even covering that story? Maybe they are, but I sure haven't seen much about it. That seems like a pretty important story to me. Certainly for the people living there, it's an important story, but it's also, I think, a story that should be a warning to anyone who lives near a pipeline who's, like that, because, and now you see why the people in, the Sioux Nation, or Standing Rock Sioux Nation, is protesting along with all the other Native American tribes and environmental groups, because can you imagine millions of gallons of crude oil being dumped in the Missouri River, contaminating the drinking water for not only those Native American people who live there, but also for millions of other people who get their water from the Missouri River. But that's that's not an important story to cover. We'd rather talk about Hillary's health, or has Donald really changed, or this or that about the horse race. I'm fed up with the horse race, guys. You know, if you're going to talk about the horse race, at least ask the candidates what's their position. So far as I know, neither Trump nor Clinton has released any statement on what their campaign's position is regarding the Dakota Access Pipeline. You know? What's their position on the pipeline spill that occurred down in Alabama and Mississippi? Hell, what's their position on our continuing, never-ending war in the Middle East? And the absurdity of it. I mean, just the other day, a prominent blogger goes by the moniker John's It, posted Caucus 99%, did a great post, great essay about, you know, here we are in Syria, and we are fighting against the Kurds with the Turks, and at the same time we're also fighting with the Kurds against Syria or ISIS or whatever, you know. You know, and at the same time that the moderate, quote, moderate rebels are threatening our forces that are working with the Turks to fight against the Kurds. So, do we even know who we're supporting, who when we fight, who our allies are? What's the point of this whole thing? I suppose that would be nice to know what the position is of the Clinton campaign and the Trump campaign about all this. But again, another story that's going underreported. And then, of course, there's the continuing catastrophe, ongoing catastrophic climate disruption that we're seeing around the world. August tied July for the hottest month on record. I think we're now in a situation where it's been 11 months that have had their hottest month on record ever. In fact, I'll put a post to a little graphic GIF that you can, or GIF, I don't know how you pronounce that. At you know, in the description of this video, you can click on that link and watch the temperatures, you know, climb over the course of, you know, since they began recording them in 1880. It's really quite frightening, and yet, is anybody talking about that? Anybody? I don't see it. You'd think that would be a major story, you know. You think, but then again, they didn't really, you know, cover the floods in Baton Rouge a whole hell of a lot, or the other, you know, 8 or 9, you know, super floods. I guess we can call the drought in California a mega drought. We can call these flooding events super floods, right? You know, these once in every 500 to 1,000 year floods that suddenly pop up in the last year. You know, multiple 1,000-year floods in the last year, and that's just that's just in the United States. You know, there's plenty of horrific events occurring around the globe. Fires burning in Canada and Russia, as well as in our own United States and in Australia. The increase in, you know, large precipitation events. You know, in my own backyard, you know, Western New York, typically a very, you know, get a lot of rainfall here, even during the summer. This year we're in drought. We're in drought conditions. We had our first, I think, significant rainfall where I live last night, and I know maybe got half an inch of rain. normally we're like a practically a temperate rainforest environment here. Trees grow like weeds. Well, not this year. So again, these weird weather events are occurring all over the globe, and yet nobody's talking about it because it's just weather. So, just think about all the different stories that are sitting there that aren't being covered right now, and instead, what is CNN going to put on? Or I don't know if it's CNN, but one of the networks is putting on a big documentary. You'd think it'd be about something current, right? No, it's about Jon Benet Ramsey. And for those of you who don't know the story of Jon Benet Ramsey, I don't blame you because it happened back in the 90s. Little girl was kidnapped, presumed dead, parents were suspected, blah, 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 blah. It was a horrible story, but why now are we choosing, why now is this network choosing to air a documentary? It's not because the anniversary, it's not the 20th anniversary or the 10th anniversary or something, and it's not like it was a significant, other than an infotainment story at the time, and but it's more like a reality show story, a horrific one, a horror story. But we have plenty of other horror stories we're going to be talking about right now, but we're not. We're going to talk about Jon Benet Ramsey. That's the documentary they're going to show. So, make of that what you will. Make of it what you will that, Amy Goodman was the only, significant media reporter at the Dakota Access Pipeline protests. And for her troubles, an arrest warrant has been issued against her. Now maybe that's why all the media from MSNBC and Fox and CNN weren't there. Maybe, who knows? Maybe they knew in advance they'd get arrested or something. Although, does anybody believe that? Since Amy Goodman wasn't arrested, they didn't even issue the warrant until 2 days after the video went viral. So that's the state of our mainstream media. Lies, half-truths, disinformation. Squirrel. Oh yeah, right. Sorry about that. It's like a bad joke, I know, at this point. So, hope you're all having a great weekend. Just remember, if you expect to get any, honest news reporting from our mainstream media sources, you're not going to get it there. Just remember that. So, Stevie D, signing off. Take care. Bye, everybody.